Hey everybody, Jason Franklin here with Expedition U, back again with another fantastic opportunity for you to learn from an industry expert. I have a good friend of mine today here, Michael Plaks. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. Okay. Happy to be on your podcast, Jason.
Excellent. I appreciate it. No, we thank you. So, Michael, you are the founder of REI Tax Firm and a national authority on IRS taxation and real estate. That's actually an underutilized opportunity for people in the real estate sector, because they're going to their standard CPA, they're going to so many different authorities, right? That know a little bit about what we do, but there's so many ins and outs in the real estate world that I think a lot of people just aren't necessarily utilizing specialists like yourself in the manner that they could or should be. So, tell us a little bit about you, kind of your genesis story, where you got started, how long you've been in the industry.
A little bit is an interesting question. How many hours do we have to talk about that? Okay. Yes. So in this industry, I've been almost 30 years. And my firm works exclusively with real estate investors. So that's what we do. We do tax advice, business advice, things like that. And where I came from IT. One time, there was a book written by author of Dilbert, Scott Adams. Okay, and I have Dilbert sculpture. Maybe may pull it out and show. I don't know how many of our listeners are fans of Dilbert. If you ever worked in a corporate environment, you would love Dilbert. Okay, so I worked in IT, and back then I read the book, and he listed 3 most boring occupations on earth. Okay, and then one of them was computer programmer, one was an accountant, and one was property manager. So I'm 2 or 3 is me. Okay.
I understand. So how did you transition from IT into real estate tax guru?
Well, I guess by an accident. Okay, what else? I was born in the Soviet Union, spent half of my life there. Okay, so I came, and in IT, I was self-employed. And that first year, I'm sorry about that. I'm looking at April comes. I'm working as a consultant in IT, and I'm all of my coworkers talking about something called income tax, forms. So I'm asking, okay, what is that? Right? And they tell me, oh, well, once a year you need to complete those forms. How do you do that? Oh, you buy a book, and that, book about taxes, and that takes you step by step, tells you how to do things. Okay, I can read books. That's a good part. So I said, okay, like all normal people in this country, on the April 14th, like one day before the deadline, I go buy a book. And the book tells me what to do, right? So, and here is interesting reading. Like I read the book, I can understand every sentence. And for the life of me, I cannot understand the concept, like what the book wants from me. So I'm saying, what do I do? So I start panicking, calling my friends. How do you handle that, right? And friends tell me, oh, well, you need to find a CPA. What is a CPA? Never heard of that. So they explain to me, okay, give me some phone number. I call that guy. The guy says, yeah, sure, come, So I come to him, like, again, all normal people, bring him shoebox of receipts, all of that stuff. So, he does an extension for me. I didn't know what an extension was, knew nothing. So anyway, like months later, I have this huge bill from the guy who did that for me, and huge bill from this guy, from the IRS, right? So the 2 huge bills, and I'm one of those people who don't enjoy paying big bills. Right? So I'm looking at that saying is, hey, that's not good. That must be some kind of survival skill here. So you need to be able to learn how to do that. Now, right now, I even understand that the guy didn't do such a good job on me back then, but since it's a survival skill, so I start learning that. I learned it, and with my background of IT, here is one thing that got my attention. I'm saying taxes essentially is optimization problem. You have those issues, and you want to put them together in a way that makes sense and minimizes things. So that was interesting. So I feel I kind of like figured out how to do that. And then when I figured out I liked it, so I started doing it for other people. Okay, so almost 30 years later, here we are.
Still doing it for other people.
Yes, still doing it for other people and enjoying that.
So interestingly, I mean, I've got a multitude of questions that spark from that, but I guess my
Sure.
first one would be, so you were an entrepreneur when you were still living in Russia because you were coding, correct?
Wouldn't say an entrepreneur because at the time, back then in Russia, you really couldn't be much of entrepreneur. That was not the thing. We
Sure.
were starting, but uh, I'll afford myself like another minute to waste out of our podcast time and tell us uh, right before I left Soviet Union, back then is I actually did get engaged in a Soviet American IT firm. Some people from the States came there, and uh, entrepreneurial thing was just starting in Russia. And I was lucky to get introduced to that. So yes, I had some exposure, but I never worked for myself.
Well,
So
my hat's off to you for a multitude of reasons. I mean, not the least of which is, I mean, coming to a new country and learning the language and then saying, you know what, I'm not going to just fall in line and go get a 9 to 5 job. I want to go out on my own. Anybody that can make it in an entrepreneurial lifestyle for 30 years has my respect.
oh,
I
but
mean,
it
I'm
was a
not.
stupid decision. You know, look, here is like true story about that because I learned how to do taxes, right? So I went out, got my license, like I had still like from that time, like license, it's called an enrolled agent, which is licensed to represent people in fights with IRS. Okay, so I got
Mhm.
my licensing and I decided, why don't I start my own business? So I start talking to people who were running tax businesses and saying is, what does it entail? And they basically told me, okay, before you do that, you need to pay down all of your debts, have like 6 months worth of savings, and then you live on rice and beans for the next year, right? You know, uh,
I
kind of thing,
identify with that.
yeah, kind of things that, you know, we learned. But, I was young, even like more arrogant than I am today. And I said, oh, no, these people are weak. I can do it. I don't have to do all
Yep.
of that stuff. Of course, I was wrong. Landed firmly on my face, learned a lesson that, yeah, just because what I did is I did what some of my clients, and your friends do right now. Like I walked into the office of my boss and said, "Hey, here is your 2 weeks notice. I'm leaving." And oh, why do you leave? Well, I'm going to. Was not the smartest thing I have done in my life. Back then, I was
Sure.
not prepared. Yeah, but that's life.
I remember when I opened my first company about 6 months in, I went and bought a really nice boat because I was like, I work for
Yeah,
myself now. I'm gonna
right.
have some extra time off. I can go fishing.
Sure.
And then 2 years later, I sold the boat with no time on it because I never got to go out in it because I was always busy. I had a
Yep.
misunderstanding of what entrepreneurial lifestyle really was when I got started.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've lived in multiple countries. You came here. I mean, so when you landed in the U.S., did you come straight to Houston, or I mean, where did you end up start out at?
Well, I spent one night in New York on the way here. That was because like we missed the flight, so had to spend the night in New York. So that was my trip to
That was your
Houston.
entry.
But yeah, that was
That's awesome. So coming all the way, I mean, from Russia, I mean, probably then you're what, like 20, 25 years or 20 years old,
thank you for the
something like that.
compliment. Yeah, but about that time, yeah, like roughly.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I
So
was in my
what
20s.
landed you on Houston? I mean, how did you come from Russia straight to Houston? Did you know somebody? Was there an opportunity? Was there a job or
Well, yeah, thanks for asking. Like I was not choosing Houston. It just happened because
few
my
people
family
do?
was, yeah, my family was coming here as political refugees. We came from Russia. I'm not really Russian. I'm Jewish, and being a Jew in Russia is a very dangerous thing to be. So yes, we came here as political refugees, and we needed a an anchor family who would sign warrants for us. So we had some family here in Houston. That's how it happened.
Okay.
So that's how I ended up
Wow.
in the city. So it wasn't my choice. Truly, honestly, if I had my choice, I would choose something more similar in an environment like Boston, maybe. That's
I was gonna
like
say
where
somewhere cold.
yeah, somewhere cold. That's exactly, yeah, you got it. That's exactly, at least somewhere where we have seasons. In Houston, we have two seasons, very hot
Hot and
and
cold.
hot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So in what is one of the probably so we're speaking our office, I mean, here in Franklin Realty Group, we deal with a ton of investors, probably more so than your average real estate office. I mean, we buy and sell. Producer Jack over here, you can't see him, wave Jack. Producer Jack over
Yeah,
here, and he
I
and
can
I
see his
and
arm.
Justin and a lot of people in our team, we work with investors, but we also flipped 7 houses this year. We did some wholesale deals. What is probably the first and like the biggest mistake that a new real estate investor makes?
I guess it depends on what that uh, you know hypothetical investor is trying to do. Okay, when I'm saying this, let's separate that in two groups. Okay, there are two kinds of people who tend to go into investing. Okay, people who are well off, having good paying jobs and just want to build on the side real estate business and maybe eventually transition from being
Sure.
full-time employees. And there are also another group who don't have much resources, maybe what we call broke, and just want to get from zero, to uh, their real estate empire. Why I'm separating that? Because the interests and priorities are very different. Okay, so if we are talking about the second group, the latter group, who are hungry, and hunger is a great motivator. Don't ask me how I know.
Is.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, when you have to pay your next month rent and you don't have cash for that, yeah, that is a serious motivator to make money in that. But one of the mistakes, yeah, that group makes, or probably like you phrased that, the most important one is, in my opinion, just listening to all of these people on social media or gurus who make it look like it's a simple thing. It's not. Okay, I'm not going to make a lot of friends in the guru circles by saying that. Well, I'm old enough to not care about how it's received. But the truth is, in the past, I used to say, okay, 90% of first-time flippers lose money. Okay, the market is different right now. Right now, it's probably 97%. It's getting worse. It's more difficult. You know, uh, it's right now what you have to do to make money in flipping. And you watch those stupid TV shows on HGTV, when they saying it's like, look, it's so easy. You buy property for this much, put a little bit of repairs there, and here you sell it. Look at all this money. Like, is it possible? Possible, of course. You know these people. I know these people. There are a lot of my clients who have made this good money, but a whole lot more of people who lost money. And what ends up, if you don't have resources, if you're in that early stage without having savings, without having backup system, you can't really afford that because you're doing you're doing something. What happens a lot with these people is they borrow money from family, from friends, end up losing that money. Now you have, in addition to financial problems with family and friends from whom you took this
Sure.
money. So to me is, I wouldn't suggest a brand new investor going that route. Like, you want to try to make money, you mentioned something, Jason, you do in your office, wholesaling. Okay, wholesaling is something that does not require that much of resources and has less risk
Sure.
doing that early. Now, not everywhere you can do it. In Texas, you can. In some states, it's not legal anymore to do that. But if you can do something like that, yes, I would suggest lower your like ambitions at the early stage. Try the water first. Make sure get some experience, get that. Now, is it wrong to do flip right away? No, but if you do that, I would strongly suggest don't do it alone. Then find
Yes.
somebody, find somebody who has done that, who knows how it works. Like could be Mr. Franklin, okay, whoever else you want to partner with. Get a person who understands real estate, understands how it works. Yes, you are not going to make all the money, but the way I think you should look at that is you're not going to lose all the money. That's more important, So
You know,
yes.
I had a guy on my Facebook yesterday, and I made a point to tell him thank you for his honesty, because he put a copy up, and you see this all the time on social media where these gurus or these flippers, and they put up a copy of the closing HUD statement, right?
Yes.
And they go, and it's just a circle about the money that they made. And he put this HUD up, and he goes, I see these all the time. And if you look at the HUD statement from my closing, it shows that I netted $47,000. It doesn't show the $100,000 that I lost on this deal.
Correct.
He said,
Correct.
so be careful who you're listening to.
Yes.
And I think what you're talking about is extremely important, because you're right. I mean, in 1985, there was no HGTV, right? I mean, there was no people out there flip or flop or, save this house or flip my ancient house, or, I mean, whatever it is, flipping Los Angeles or whatever. And, they go on there, and I mean, it's entertaining, but you have to understand that it is there for entertainment. It's not teaching you how to do business. It's not teaching you the ins and outs. And I think one of the things that I think you're alluding to that is so important is that they have to build a team before they go into before you acquire. You need a tax consultant. You need somebody you need to have contractors. You don't go take down your first flip and then go look for a contractor. I mean, because then you bought it with hard money, and you're paying $3,000 a month in interest, and it takes you 30 days to find a contractor, and then he's no good and he walks out. I mean, so you got to build that team first, right?
Yes, I will put a comma, after your statement, and I would add a little bit like of clarification to what I call team. I hear that expression a lot. Yes, what are you doing right now? Oh, I'm not doing any deals. I'm building my team. And then half a
Yeah.
year later, what are you doing? Well, I'm still building my team. So okay. I would
Analysis paralysis. Yes.
Right. But I would be very careful about like that building of your team concept. First is okay, we have some clients coming to us and saying is, well, we want to talk to you guys, heard lots of good things. We want to be on our team. What team? What are we playing? You haven't done anything yet. I'm not. Now, when we say team, there are essential people without whom you cannot do anything. And when we look real estate, these people are like, you may need a mentor type of partner if you are new and not familiar. And on your team, what you definitely need is you need to have on this team right away, or actually before you start, you need a lender. So you need to find like source of money, and you need to have contractor team. And I would stop there, frankly, because I'm saying, what about an accountant? You happen to mention. What happened about an accountant? Oh, yeah, it's good, but it's not something you need to get the ball rolling.
Sure.
Start,
Absolutely.
go out there, focus. What people do, we see that a lot, and I'm against that. Okay, I had some people, right now after COVID time, I haven't been to any of the investor meetings. Like years ago, I used to go to a lot of these local clubs and speak there, and had some disagreements publicly on these panels, because there are people who saying, oh, like that's very important. You need to talk to tax people and lawyers and all of these professionals prior to that to set it up right. Okay, that's one of my pet peeves, like this quote unquote setting things right. So setting things right means this in its common scenario. You go out, pay $10,000 to some company who creates complicated structure for you, who creates this plan, whatever that is, legal plan, tax plan, business plan, whatever. We can sell those binders. And then the only thing you really have done to yourself is you took $10,000 that you could spend towards your first deal and put it into something that you don't need yet. Like,
Yeah, no, and you're
I
right. I mean, there's an old Southern saying, don't put the cart in front of the horse,
correct.
right? I mean,
Yes.
the thing is, it's yes, those are all important, but you need to make sure that you're building your business appropriately for where your business is. And then in
Yes.
its infancy, the first thing you need is cash.
Yes.
Go close your first deal. If you do 2 or 3 deals, get 20 or 40 or $100,000, and then go and sit down with somebody and say, okay, listen, I've got some baseline experience. I know that I'm going to be able to 3 or 4x this in the next 2 or 3 years. Now I need a plan. Now I need to know how I'm investing, how I'm doing this. If I want to go in, and also a lot of it is going to be, what's my purpose? Am I doing, because you mentioned you have two different types of investors. You have people that are trying to put their money to work, or you have people that are just trying to get the money.
Yes.
I mean, and so those are drastically different. So you got people that are doing 1031 exchanges and they want to build a portfolio. Okay, are you keeping this house for 6 months, or are you going to make this generational and you want to keep it for 60 years? Are you going to be passing this on to your kids? Because then you get into all the, amortization and depreciation and everything else, because then you really want to look at how you're doing that. But that depends on who you are and which side of that business you're on. And I think you're exactly right. Unfortunately, I have some very, very good personal acquaintances who have gone to gurus and spent 30 or 40 or $50,000 getting set up.
Yes.
I mean, and then they turn around, and to a one, every single person I know that did that never got a house.
Yes. I unfortunately have seen more than my fair share of these people who do that, and they come to us and saying, well, at least I want a tax deduction for that. Well, that's very bad consolation prize for for
Yeah, it
putting
is.
all your savings into doing that. You ventured a little bit into my territory. I'll use that as an opening door
Segue.
here, because you mentioned some strategies, like mentioned 1031 exchange and things like that. And there is another thing which is pet peeve, okay, for my peers and myself. It's okay. So right now, see, when I started like years ago, the information was very hard to come by. You know, there were not many books about real estate investments. So all
Sure.
that knowledge was distributed through private training. But right now you go on Amazon, look like real estate investments, you find dozens of like similarly titled books. Your challenge is not to find information, your challenge is to decide which one to buy. There is so much information. Tax strategy.
Well, I was on that real quick, and I'm with you 1,000%, because I don't know what's worse when I'm trying to investigate something: no knowledge or too much, right?
Right now,
And
I think
it's
with I'm totally like you phrased it very well. What is worse, I don't know, but we definitely have that situation right now of too much information. Okay, so what
mhm.
happens right now is, and that was books, and then next, like years later, we had all of these proliferation of websites where all of these blogs appeared and articles, and I contributed to that. I wrote a bunch of articles that are out there on the internet, right? And then we have social media, where right now on a daily basis there is that avalanche of information about anything, including taxes. So what we have right now is everybody reads that. Like, let's take, for example, my favorite gathering online place for real estate investors. It's Bigger Pockets. Okay, so
Mhm.
it's like national website. I happen to be one of the leading contributors there to the tax section of the website. So, and there is a lot of great networking and exchange of information. But what happens there is this, like a new investor comes, joins the board, starts reading, and I'm saying is, oh, okay, there is this 1031 exchanges, cost segregation, short-term rentals, like start combining that. At least I want all of this. It's like kid getting into a candy store, and I'm saying, oh my God, all of these, like I want all of these. Now, what we do as like accounting industry very bad job about is getting in a big picture that tells you that when something is applicable to you or not. So if we take those examples like saying, oh, 1031 exchanges is a great thing to defer your taxes. And then we have all of these people who do flipping, and then they come to us and saying is, okay, I'm doing flipping, so how do I do those magic 1031 exchanges to delay taxes? You can't. 1031
No.
exchange does not apply to flipping at all. If you're in a flipping business, forget it. That's a great strategy, but not for you. It's for real estate landlords, not for flippers. Okay, then landlords coming and saying is, oh, I read all of those things, so cost segregation. So yes, what's the best firm to do cost segregation? Can you recommend someone? I'm like, hey, stop, wait, okay. Tell me what you do. We ask a few questions. Learn is, okay, the guy is an engineer, making 100K. Okay, his wife is a doctor making 200K, right? So we have 300 in the family. Okay, you know what, cost segregation is not going to help you at all. Forget it. But I read all of these blogs and people tell you how great it is, how much they save. Yes, these people are in a different situation. Like your situation, Jason, for example, you're full-time real estate entrepreneur. Okay. Actually, when I met you, you were a full-time owner of a martial arts school. Was in a
Very
completely,
true.
yeah, that's how we met. Right. So, and by the way, for somebody who does not know Jason well, he was an incredible instructor and martial art practitioner. I
Well, I
always looked up
appreciate
to
that. Thank
Jason.
you.
Yes, like had one of the cleanest techniques I have seen in the field. Okay, so anyway, and so you're right now.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Well, so this way it's totally deserved. So okay, and so you are a full-time real estate person. Okay, right now. So if you have rental portfolio of your own, cost segregation would be a fantastic tool in your situation. Okay, we will talk to you. I will suggest you do that, and we will discuss how it helps. Okay, but you are in a situation very different from the example that I had before when we have two high earning professionals with full-time W2 jobs. They cannot do that. So reading all of that and expecting, okay, there is a very popular book by Tom Wheelwright written Tax-Free Wealth. Everybody expects that. Well, in some situation, you can have it, not in all situations. Okay,
Sure.
if you are building right now your business as a, let's say, wholesale, we had that example. Okay, somebody new comes in the business, doesn't have savings, does not have a lot of resources, wants to control his own destiny and become a successful wholesaler. Okay, hands up, thumbs up to you. Okay, or you want to become a good realtor, and compete with Jason. Okay, sure. Okay, all of that is doable. But here is the thing: when you do that, and that's your only business, you are making business from wholesaling or being a realtor. Taxes are part of the game. There is no way to erase it to zero. You need to plan for that. And circling back to your question about common mistake, that's a very common mistake that can destroy your business. What people often do not realize is, oh, look at me. That's my first year in business. Yes, I wasn't sure how well it would go, but hey, it did go well. I made some good commissions. I had some good help. Somebody can join brokerage like yours where you have a system to train people, right? So, and saying is good. Look, hey, with good support, good system, and a little bit of praying and luck, here I am. I made all of this money. And the next question is, well, did you set aside anything for taxes? What taxes? Okay. And here you have a problem because you used to be in W2 job. They were taking taxes out of your paycheck. And comes April, you do taxes, you get a refund. Now comes April, that's the other way around. This
And you
guy
get a
wants,
bill.
yeah, wants a check. And the people, oh, I don't have any money. Well, I might close a deal next week. I hope, that it sells and I'll get it. Okay. Next week we close. Oh, what happened with your money? Oh, I actually needed this money for something else. Oops. and it keeps accumulating because he may be patient for a little bit, not for a very long time. And then you have a real problem, unfortunately. And then again, we come to social media and uh, commercials, and they saying is, oh, call this 800 number. Here is a video testimony of a guy who owed the IRS $100,000, and we settled for pennies on the dollar. Look at that. He paid the IRS $500, and that's it. And his debt is erased. And then they come to somebody like us. Like when people look at my logo, okay, my logo have me wearing these like red gloves,
Oh
spike
yeah.
gloves and
Oh, I know him well.
yeah, and punching Uncle Sam, right? So yeah, that's part of what we do, right? We fight it, but it's not a negotiation like you can do, uh, with sellers on a market. You can't come to the IRS and saying is, you know what? You think I owe you 100? How about we settle on $500 and call it even? No, it doesn't work like that. So when do these people lie in their testimony? First, honestly, I believe that they do. That's beyond the point. But the cases when the IRS does settle with people are case, there are special circumstances. So when
Sure.
can you do that? You can. Here is an example. You accumulated that debt. What's your situation right now? Oh, right now I'm unemployed, broke, divorced, have nothing, no resources, no savings. Can at that point you strike a deal with the IRS? Yeah, I just don't wish you to be in that economic.
Well, and that's the whole thing when it comes to
Yeah,
that specifically is the people that are able to make those deals. If you're able to make that deal, everything's gone wrong.
right,
I mean, it's a bad
right.
situation,
Yes, yes,
and I think it kind of bringing all that together, whether you're wholesaling or flipping or you want to, get into, putting your money somewhere safe. I think that with all the information and all of the gurus and all of the technology that's available to us, I think the one thing that I really push on people the most is go listen to as many people as you can, but ask about their failures. Don't ask about their successes, because the truth is in the negative, right? I mean, everyone wants to show you that HUD statement, and I made this much money, or I did this and I did that. But when you sit down and go, hey, where can this go wrong? Find out where it can go wrong. And then that way you've got a game plan of how to avoid those pitfalls. But if you're listening to somebody that only gives you the good side, I would challenge whether or not that's the person that you need to be listening to. If they're not going to share with you the cautionary tale as well as the success, and they need to show you the success, obviously, because it's motivating and it shows you what your potential is and where you can go. But in that same vein, I think the responsible thing to do is, hey, listen, if you do this, you should be able to accomplish this. However, make sure that you don't make these mistakes. Right? I mean, make sure that you don't consume
yeah.
all of your income. Make sure that you're paying attention.
I guess it depends on the personality
Sure.
too, because there are some people, and I know these people who get, um, at the top. Uh, their best moments is when they are fearless. Okay, so these people may not need the negative side. They just have such an excitement and such a great motivation from hearing a story of success. Just saying is, oh, look at this guy. I know that he was a drug addict. Uh, he was behind the bars for a while. Was doing all the wrong things, and because there are people out there like who are visible, who don't share who don't hide their personal stories. So we know these people.
Sure.
And look at this guy, and look where he is right now. So wow, that's very inspiring. If he could do
Sure.
that, then I could do that. And so that positive success stories are like equally important, and I guess depends on personality. But what you said resonates very well with my personality, because mine is, if somebody only gives me the positive, I'm after all a Eastern European guy. We we are not the most positive uh, uh, segment of the
You said it,
population.
not me.
Right. Yeah, so kind of, if you just tell me all the pluses, I'm getting suspicious. Okay, what are you hiding, right? Tell me the negatives. But when I hear both sides of the story, then I can come weigh them and saying is, okay, I think I can do that. So yes, both sides are important. And something that we already mentioned before is what I think is extremely helpful for brand new investor who has never done that. It's have a support of an experienced investor, who has done that. And support have different levels. You can just have a cigar smoking buddy to meet with once a week, and share a cigar with and just swap stories and ask questions. And maybe that's enough. Or you can go all the way and have actually a true partner where you are pulling your resources to get on the same deal. Choose like degree where you are comfortable with, but an access to somebody who has made mistakes, and can identify them and help you out of a tight situation is very important. Like my business as an accountant, first year in business, I was working for somebody, for a very experienced person. We are still friends all of these years later, and that was invaluable experience. I looked at how somebody else does his business while working for him, and I still made a whole lot of mistakes after that on my own, but having seen somebody else was essential to my survival in that business. And we see that a lot, among our clients when they partner with, or when I say partner is a controversial word. Partner means you don't have to be like complete partners sharing everything, but just at least have some kind of access to an experienced person, whether it's an occasional advice or a full-blown partnership, but somebody who can help you. It's often repeated in our real estate circle that real estate is a team sport. Like you cannot do everything on your own. I mean, you can, but it will be much slower and more painful than if you do, with other people.
Michael, I think that's a great place for us to land the plane, because I think, what you're talking to there is, making sure that, one, don't just keep planning and never take action. You want to take action because that's where the success is going to be, but you do want to be appropriately cautious in how you set yourself up. So in that vein, we have a lot of listeners on our podcast that are in the real estate industry investment. If one of them wanted to reach out to you, where's the best place for them to reach out? Social media or direct, or you have a website or?
Yeah. Okay. The best place to reach us would be through our company website. The firm is called REI Tax Firm. REI standing Real Estate Investment. So I hope like fairly easy to remember. Okay. REI Real Estate Investment. So REI Tax Firm. TAXFIRM. So reitaxfirm.com. It explains the services that we do. It has a contact form to complete, and then we will get back with you and see if there is a fit. So for us, a fit would be somebody who is looking for tax strategies and support around your plan. But to do that, you need a plan. If you are, we already talked about that. If you are right now sitting there and contemplating is, okay, I think next year I may want to go into real estate. Full support from me. Yes, do it. Maybe don't even wait until next year. Go do it, as soon as possible. Yes, try to do it. But as far as setting up and planning things like that, try something. Maybe the plan that you had wouldn't even work. Here is a good example. Everybody wants to create. I read online, I read this blog, heard this podcast that you need to set up the proper entity for your company. So I already set up an S corporation, because I read about all of these tax benefits. Okay, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to buy a rental property like it's under contract right now. Okay, you never put rental property into an S corp. Wrong match, disconnect. So don't put those things in place if you don't know what you are doing there. And then
Sure.
again is, well, I bought this property, I meant it to be a rental, but then somebody wanted to buy it from me, so I sold it. It never became a rental. Well, okay, you're not in landlording business right now. That's a different type of business. So like
Sure.
setting up things before you try reminds me a little bit of this. Like, this is analogy I like to mention to some of the people we talk to. It's like buying clothes for your future child before the child is conceived. You
I
don't know.
understand.
You don't know how many you're going to have, what gender, what kind of, weight,
You have to buy all gender neutral clothing.
Well, yes,
Well,
now we
Michael,
are getting, yes.
hey, I
Whatever.
really go ahead.
Yeah, no, I said
No, I
it.
was gonna say we really appreciate you taking the time. I know that the information that you're sharing, so there's the fun and fluffy stuff, and then there's the stuff that we really need to know. And I really appreciate
Correct.
you sharing this, because a lot of our listeners, and again, this is, even though your business is tax specific, I think a lot of the strategies we talked about today are universal. Whether you want to open a McDonald's or if you want to open a hair salon, it's about, first of all, being ready to jump, be adventurous, be bold, make those steps. But before you get too deep, make sure that you have a plan and that you're working it properly to protect yourself. So everybody, make sure you reach out to reitaxfirm.com. Michael Plaks, an absolute expert in the area. I hope we added some value to you guys today, and we look forward to seeing y'all next week.